Hey team, it's TeamLead again, and you can hear my screeching child in the background, so I hope that will help me focus more on this lesson. And today we will continue our SQL journey. We'll be not touching tables today again, and you'll say, whoa, what is the problem with you, TeamLead? Why are you not touching tables? Just bear with me. I'm going to give you the solid foundation, and then we're going to do all the simple selects and other things you already used to or found in other tutorials. So without further ado, let's go into our screen. So remember from last time, we spent a lot of time of building these nonsensical cases and whatnot, and today I'm going to show you a little thing from programming as well. So we have if else and basically what we call a flow, right? So we can say, remember we have our number, so we want to select our number if our number is, let's say, 0, right? Then we want to say that select 1 else select number. So what do you think has happened here? Let's call it, and we got the answer 1. Why the answer is 1? Because we set our number to 0 here, right? What if we do something like this? What if we set it to 0 here? Let's call it. What do you think the answer will be? It's going to be null. Why? Because this case checks if a number is null, then sets it to null. So let's add else here and just say return number, right? Now what we did here, even if it's set, we're going to return it. So let's call it again. Okay, now it works. Now we have a default value. If for unknown reason it's null, then we set it to 0, else we return a number. So we kind of have a very controlled float here, which would be very respectable even in software development languages. And we have if else thing going here. So that means that if it's 0, we're selecting 1. So we can see if that really works. Let's add 2 here. Let's call all that. And as you can see, yes, the answer is 2. So what we have here, we have a very controlled select. So it only selects on things which you want to do. Is that all? No. Let me show you a few other things which we've been used to. So we have this called IFF. So before we had a lot of if else and all of that things. We had functions like this where we kind of work with like ternary operators. So let me show you how it works. So you declare a few things here, so A and B, and you select, and this checks, this is what you're checking. So if, for example, if it was a software development language, it would go like this. Let's say var check, right? And you say you can go without parentheses. You can say, is this variable null, right? And you say if it's null, right? Then you say then return, for example, 0, else you can return this variable. So it would kind of, this is how ternary operator would handle it in, let's say, Java and C#, and probably in a few other languages as well. And this is the same here. So you have an ability to in one small function have the answer. So for example, remember when we've been building this like bigger or cases with more things, we can kind of cut 3 corners here by using that, and we can chain those AFS, right? And the last thing to build your foundation on what we can select here and what we can select, I can show you a loop. So let's call it like this. Oh no, sorry, that's not this one. Yes, let's call it like this. Let's connect our engine, and here we go. As you can see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, up to the 20. Now one might ask, why would you even need a loop in, you know, database? Generally I would say in 99.9% you wouldn't be using such things, because we have procedures, we have jobs which could run procedures, we could have a, you know, services which have cron jobs who call specific procedures via APIs and all stuff like that. So usually we don't build very crazy amount of loops as such, but is there a place for them? I would say definitely yes. If you're, for example, if you're making a big select and something tries to change something, and you know, it's obviously databases such as Microsoft, they're ACID compliant, so meaning there's things such as atomicity, so there probably wouldn't be any issues. But if you want to make sure, or you want to do some kind of, for example, counting after your insertion, or there are a lot of use cases. So I would say where I would use such thing as this, I would definitely use it in a case where I've done specific jobs. So for example, I set it, and my, let's say, first select would be my specific job, and second select would be to check if that was if it was done correctly. Or what if I need, let's say, 10 or 20 iterations? If I have different tables, I want to put things but in that specific order, I would definitely do this, because I know that each and every one will happen according to the order I set, rather than the order which would be assigned by the SQL engine itself. But again, I just want to reiterate that I would say it's going to be mostly edge cases where you need it. But again, if you're going to raise your level in development, in database development, you will come to find that there are corner cases which needs to be solved somehow, some way, and I think this might help you. Now, since we wrote a lot of things, now you can ask, since we're declaring variables, can we declare, let's say, can we declare tables? Yes, we can. Just let me explain why would you do it and what are the different options. So actually, if you're using Microsoft's engine, so we have things like views. So what are those? It's actually, to explain view, it's actually, you can think of it as just a select. So why would you do it? You can write all this. For example, if you say, if we take what's in the view, right, we go to new query, we select that, and here you go, it works, we have the answer instantly, nothing to do here. But as you can see, it's quite big, it's quite chunky, you can press and make a typo, and definitely you cannot select this as the single object. And if you're using let's say written selects in your language, so you go into, for example, C# or Java and have this built by string, so that's not great, and the reusability isn't that great. So what you do, you create from this select what's called the view, and this way when you create view, you just select it as a table. So for example, we do select top rows, and we just select as a simple table. So it selects with displaying all columns, but you can shorten by setting this sign, meaning select everything. And if you press F5, it works just exactly the same way. Now it selects everything, not all individual columns, which comes down to everything, but just everything, right? So, and now what you can do, you can just write into your basically ORMs, which work with databases, so entity framework, or like Dapper or other frameworks, and you can now select that as an object, and you can also select that at like string build table as well. This is going to be like way smaller. You don't have to write all that joins and stuff like that. You can just select from invoices. You can write you can paste this as a string, or you can use this, you know, from like as an entity and select that. So this is why you have views, and that's how they help you. Subscribe to my channel. Subscribe to my channel and press like. Now if you go, for example, let's say let's script table create 2 new query. Let's take a definition. Let's take our definition of table. Let's put it here. This is I'm cheating. I don't want to write everything by hand, and we can select cool table, right? Oh, yes, I didn't declare it. So we just say select everything from cool table. Let's call it like this. And as you can see, it's empty, but we are selecting it, right? We can even make it smaller for just readability. So let's remove a few things. Let's stick with the ID of that. Let's shorten city and address. Okay, now it's more manageable. And let's see. Yeah, so it's supplier ID, contact type. Can we insert it into our like memorized table here as well? Yes, obviously. Then you're selecting. It's actually a very cool hack. Instead of writing super duper insert logic, you can do things like you're selecting and inserting. So we can do insert into our cool table, right? And now you should bring and write super insertion logic, or you can do something like, oh, this is identity ID. So let's remove identity. That should be easier for us to build because identity auto increments. We don't really need that. Or if you want to, we can leave that and I can show you how it works. So this is n-varchar and varchar. So it would be something like contact title the boss, address would be Canada, and city will be Toronto. Let's call all that. And let's select from our cool table again. Thank you. And as you can see, what has happened, so I'll explain very quickly. So what we did, we inserted into our table which only exists in this particular query. So if you were to go and say let's select this in new query, right, and we run it, it says, oh, it's not declared, it's local. So what is amazing, it only exists here. It's not temporary table, it's not some kind of loosely coupled in memory table, it only exists here. So what we are doing here essentially is we are only working in this scope. So I left this identity, as I said, it increments things, so I didn't pass, as you can see, I didn't pass that ID. If I were to remove this identity column, it means that now I must pass an ID. So it can be logical as 1, but if I'm controlling, we can start at, let's say, 800. And that definitely works because it's not controlled by anything. So whatever I write here, I write, but if we leave that identity, it works for us and it more makes logical insertions. What I mean by logical insertions, if we we do it again, and we say, let's say second boss who also lives in Toronto, and basically let's call all that, right? As you can see, the boss, second boss, both together, and we have that second ID. So identity, essentially, it takes care of things for us, and if it sees there's number 1, it's going to add number 2, etc, etc. Keep in mind though that if you delete something, let's say number 3, not in the memory table but in actual table, you would remove that, it would continue with number 4. So this is just one of those advanced things you have to take into account when using identities as such, but this is usually topic for another time, so I will not go into much details for this time. So now what we learned, what we understood, and what can we do here. We understood that even if we didn't have Northwind database, I'll put a link in the description where you can download it. It's basically a playground of full items made by Microsoft. So even without actually using an actual data, we can already play with it and do a lot of things. So very first thing we learned is that we can do many things. We can check, we can do a lot of things with cases and all that, and we can do that with variables in memory. So we also have tables in memory. Now you can also ask, so for example, can you do something like, remember we kind of copied suppliers table, so could we theoretically take this suppliers table, right, and could we populate our table? The answer is yes, obviously we can. You can take that and you can say, okay, so we have we have all of this. So let's just select what we have, company supplier ID. So let's leave supplier ID. Let's give let's leave country, because we have city. We have city and address, right? So city and address, that stays. Contact title stays. Address stays. Contact. So we don't need those. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Kinda makes sense. So let's remove top to select everything. And can you do it like so? Let's try it. So as you can see, there's going to be a problem. We're inserting on identity. So as I said before, you have to take that into account. So if we now deselect this, or rather remove it, and if we just do it like so, let's run everything. Let's check it. Column name of slide, yeah, so we didn't match. So 1, 2, 3, 4, right? Supplier ID, contact title, address, city. Let's see. Supplier ID, contact title, address, city. Okay, just let's remove those for a little bit. Let's try running, and yes, it works. So as you can see, we have our table in memory, and we insert. So why I removed the identity column? Because it already has set items, and we don't want those to fight ours. So this way we remove from our memory, and what we did, we inserted. So our cool table currently has these columns, right? And if you're not sure, you can say, what if you aren't selecting, we can definitely delete something and to see if that really is the case. So for example, you can say delete from at cool table where supplier ID equals 29, and let's select that again. Bam. So in this select we have 29th, yeah, as you can see, and after that we are making a deletion, and there's only 28 remain, as you can see from here down below. So yes, it is active. Our memory table is definitely active, and it's not something, you know, from fail test, and we're definitely not selecting from suppliers as such. So here you guys have it. It's again, we're not yet in the field of selecting just actual tables and working with actual data as such. What we're doing here, we're doing very amazing playground stuff. We're working with our declared in query tables or in memory tables, and this is it. We are not even, we can make different names we want, we can change column names, we can add different logic, we can aggregate, we can do whatever we want. And best part here is that if we check suppliers table, right, it's still gonna have that the 29th column. So you can think of this as the something which is very safe to do, or if you have analytics and all of that, you're not actually changing the source. So imagine if this was the real live database, you probably shouldn't even have access to live database, and in this way you're making your own stuff for you, but you're not damaging real data. So this is really important. This is really important, you know, to understand that this way you can, in memory, you can, if you're having data source, you can take that, you can manipulate, you can change. If some entry is, for example, null or whatever, you can delete that, you can change that. It doesn't matter. You're not touching real data per se. You're just reading them. So this is one of those things you have to understand. So we know how to control the flow. We know that there's functions like IAFs. We know that we can do loops, and we definitely know that we can not only select in memory things for simple variables, but can also build tables. And then we're building tables in memory. We can essentially work with real data and have different tables available. So thanks for watching this. I hope you'll hit that like button and subscribe, and I'll do more of this if you comment that you want this, because I don't have that many watchers, so I'm not really sure if really it makes sense for you guys, or it only is fun for me. Please do comment, and if this works, I can definitely show you way more advanced stuff by joining, cutting, and whatever. So thanks for watching. Until next time, cheers.
Subscribe to my channel. Subscribe to my channel and press like.